Hello and welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. If this is your first time, please consider subscribing. And if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. If you enjoy the content that I'm presenting today, give me a thumbs up and let me see you in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. But please, whatever you do, keep it positive or else keep it moving. We don't want any negativity going on, just ways to grow. So I did a recent introductory video, just a little bit over 5 minutes, just so you guys can see a little bit about who I am. And I also talked about why I'm not on camera. See, this is not a still shot. This is actually, I'm out in the backyard right now. So like I said, that video talks more about why I'm doing that. But let's just go ahead and get started because I need to keep these videos short. My phone right now doesn't have much storage for some reason, so it's cutting off around 11 minutes or so. So it should be around that. But anyway, here we go. So I am TruthSeeker. I am on a quest for truth. I believe that my love for truth, for wanting the truth, has to do with how I was raised as a witness. That terminology, as we all know, was very much instilled in us, every meeting, it definitely was never not said. We were in the truth, we live the truth, we are the truth, If we leave the organization, you come back to the truth, So now, of course, I don't refer to that, use that term when I talk about the organization, but I just feel like that did establish that love of and that thirst for truth. Now, one thing I want to say, once you step out of the organization or start looking at things in another way, it's hard sometimes to wrap your head around the fact that it's not just that easy to find answers. You've thought something was true the whole time you've been, raised as a witness or whatever. And when you leave or when you start questioning other things, answers are not readily available. Not to say that we had all the answers as witnesses, but we felt like we did, right? So it made us feel some level of comfort. Excuse me. And I know that other ex-witnesses can attest to this, that when you leave and you start kind of finding that a lot of stuff is unanswered, it kind of makes you uncomfortable because we're not used to that, right? But what I want to say to you all is this: those who are, on the search and those who are still witnesses and stuff like that, just never stop looking for truth. It doesn't matter that it's going to feel uncomfortable if you come across things that really make you think, and maybe you start to lean towards those things that they may be true. It doesn't matter that it's going to be something that's going to change you or change your life, because it is well worth it. It may be hard. It will make you feel uncomfortable, but it is definitely worth it. And one other thing, try your best not to categorize truth as either good or bad. Truth just is. It's just the information. It's just what it is. It doesn't have to be good or bad. So if you can try to do that and go ahead and follow me with what I'm going to say, then perhaps this might end up being something that will at least get your wheels turning and maybe get you to thinking. Okay. So what I mentioned in the other video is that I want to look at the Old Testament. I think that as witnesses, we often shied away from that because it was kind of difficult to rectify a lot of the ways that God or Jehovah was in the Old Testament. I'm going to read a scripture to you. Okay. And then I want to just discuss it a little bit and ask a few provoking questions just for you to think about and maybe us to discuss and dissect a little more on the next video. So the Bible that I'm using is the Christian Standard Bible, and the scripture is Deuteronomy 20 verses 10 through 18. So I'm going to read here 10 through 14. You can read the rest of them on your when you get a chance if you would like. Okay, let's get started. When you approach a city to fight against it, make an offer of peace. If it accepts your offer of peace and opens its gates to you, all the people found in it will become forced laborers for you and serve you. However, if it does not make peace with you but wages war against you, lay siege to it. When Jehovah your God, and I'm inserting that because mine says Lord, okay? So when Jehovah your God hands it over to you, strike down all its males with the sword. But you may take the women, dependents, animals, and whatever else is in the city, all its spoil, as plunder. You may enjoy the spoil of your enemies that Jehovah your God has given you. Wow. Okay. So first thing I want to do is go back to verse 11. We see the term forced laborers. So I want to insert the word slaves right there because those two are interchangeable. So I'm going to read it again. If it accepts your offer of peace and opens its gates to you, all the people found in it will become slaves for you and serve you. Okay, so what we see here now, I am not saying that I believe this, of course, but what it is saying is that Jehovah sanctioned his people to enslave nations. This was their art of warfare, okay? So they would go in, make an offer of peace. If the people accepted their peace and opened their gates, they would enslave them, okay? So that's what it says that Jehovah did. And then if they didn't accept the peace, of course, they would kill all the men and take the women, children, animals, whatever, as spoil or plunder, okay? So I have a few questions about this. Now, we probably have normalized this in our mind, saying that, obviously these people were not serving Jehovah, so that's why that it was justified for them to do this. And of course, they were on the promised land, so God was giving the promised land to the Israelites and all of that. But my first question is this: why would God have them enslave the people? Do you feel that enslavement of humans is humane or inhumane? Now, I know you might say that back in those days, this is just the things that they did, and that's how it was. So God was just kind of going along with the day and age. But again, if you think it's inhumane, I need to ask you again, just because they did it back then, does it make it right? Okay. So if in fact there is nothing wrong with it, why then did God put it into the hearts of the present day superior authorities, which are supposedly in place by God, that they would make laws against slavery? It seems quite odd that it was okay back then to God to not only allow his people to do it, but actually tell them that this is what they were to do. But yet now in our day, he obviously thinks it's wrong because he is supposedly behind the superior authorities, right? So this is quite interesting. Another question for you: why does Jehovah no longer sanction his people, which are supposedly you, Jehovah's Witnesses, to commit such acts in this day? I'm sure you might say, the laws in place won't allow us to do that anyway, so, But again, does it take laws to tell you what's wrong or right? Is it really a law that would make enslaving somebody, or murdering somebody feel wrong to you to do that? Or is it the moral code that was written in you, that's put in your very DNA, that's buried deeply, that you don't know where that came from? Or wait, no, you do actually, right? Because you were supposedly made in God's image. So if you were made in God's image, and deep down in your moral code, it tells you that it is wrong, and you don't need God to tell you this, you don't need a Bible to tell you this, you don't need laws to tell you this. Your DNA, your moral code tells you it's wrong to enslave other human beings or to murder other human beings, yet you're created in the image of the same God who actually felt that this was correct or this was okay back in the day. So then my question is, who put that moral code in you? If it were God, then does this mean that God actually changed? Or what happened here? What happened here? And another question, why would God have made them go and offer peace when he knew that they were not coming in peace? They knew they weren't coming in peace. They had no intention of peace. So basically, he was kind of having them fake them out, Doesn't that sound eerily similar to the present day situation that we all know of in history, where the colonizers came to United States, where people were already on the land? They made an offer of peace with no intention of really having peace with these people, but really their purpose was to forcefully take the land. That's interesting how that parallels, or that is actually the same type of thing. So again, you would say that, okay, well, they were on the promised land. God promised them this land. Well, could not God have simply caused the nation to have opened their, to have allowed them to leave the land or to negotiate with the Israelites rather than enslave them? Couldn't he had it to where they didn't even move on the promised land in the first place? God knew the land that he had promised to Abraham's descendants. Why did he allow those people to even move there? You mean he couldn't have avoided that? Why only kill all the men, not the women and children and descendants? If it had to do with these people being sinners, then you would kill everybody, right? Why only kill the men? All throughout the Old Testament, we know that God had a problem with his people, especially the men, marrying foreign women, and the women, especially in Solomon's situation, for example, inciting his people, his men, to go off and worship other gods. But it's telling you here that they were supposed to kill the men and leave the women. Isn't that quite interesting? So it really didn't have anything to do with them being sinners, did it? Because was the men the only sinners, or was it the women also? So it's more to this than what is being told here. And it's more that it's asking you to believe. It's so crazy how fast time goes when I talk about these type of things. But I do know that my phone is about to stop me on this. So I'm going to go ahead and have a part 2. I wasn't planning on doing that, but I'm going to go ahead and do that because I do have a few more questions I'd like to leave you with. So please come back and join me for part 2. Thank you so much.